So let's bring in now Democratic California Congresswoman Sara Jacobs, who has some more insight. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us early this morning. I want to start with something that's hitting close to home for you, and that is the Israel-Hamas war. You're the youngest Jewish American member of Congress. You currently have family that's living in Israel. You've said we need to lead with our values. So what's your reaction this morning to the humanitarian aid that's finally being able to cross into Gaza from Egypt?
Well, as you said, I have family who lives there, so I understand personally the importance of what's going on there and the urgency the Israeli government is feeling right now. But I am very glad that we have seen some humanitarian assistance get through the Rafah crossing, that this is something that President Biden really pushed while he was there and that he was able to negotiate while he was there. But let's be honest, 20 trucks is not enough. And while this is a very good start, we need to be doing a lot more to make sure that we are addressing the humanitarian situation in Gaza.
Congresswoman, we're watching things like Jim Jordan trying to become the permanent speaker, failing 3 times. We're seeing, though, consistently Hakeem Jeffries' name being put forth strongly and in unity by the Democrats. You know, we talk about getting to 217 and the chances of maybe more centrist voices from the Republican Party joining the Democrats to actually get something done, because Americans are being held hostage by the GOP right now. Nothing's getting done. No legislation has been presented since September 30th. Any maybe, you know, I guess erosion from the solidity or the solidarity from the GOP are saying, you know what, nobody's going to break ranks and come join the Democrats?
You know, we have both publicly and privately messaged that we are open to a bipartisan way forward. I mean, I would love if 5 Republicans came and voted with us and Hakeem Jeffries became speaker, but there are many options of what a bipartisan way forward could look like. And I'm hopeful that some Republicans will take us up on that offer. As Whip Clark said, take yes for an answer and work with us so that we can get the House reopened and get back to the business of serving the American people.
How exasperating, though, is it to see names like Kevin Hern and Byron Donalds, people that are also rabble-rousers in and of their own right, being, you know, putting their hat into the race, throwing their hats into the ring to be able to be the permanent Speaker of the House?
I mean, at this point, Democrats are open to a bipartisan way forward. And a part of that will be trying to stop anyone to become speaker who objected to the 2020 election and tried to overturn the election. And so it is disappointing to see so many people who, you know, still feed into the big lie, putting their name in for speaker. I was in the House chamber on January 6th. It was actually my 3rd day in office. I was sworn in on January 3rd. And I remember how terrifying it was and how real it was. And the fact that we have people who want to lead this body who still feed into the very thing that incited that violence, it's deeply problematic.
And Congresswoman, before I have to let you go, I do have to ask along that vein. It is alarming that there's been the normalization of violence and violent rhetoric by the GOP. How has it been kind of viewing what's happening on the other side of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle with the fact that threats, death threats have been made when people didn't vote for somebody like Jim Jordan?
It's very concerning. Look, it should be no surprise that Jim Jordan is willing to use violence to overturn the will of the people and change an election outcome. We have seen him do that before. But I actually used to work in international conflict resolution. And I know that actually this normalization of political violence is incredibly dangerous. And it is the first step of what could be a very dangerous and difficult path. And so I am very concerned about a lot of the rhetoric that we're seeing coming from the other side and the threats and intimidation and violence, frankly, that we are seeing.
And Congresswoman, do you think it's worth, because I've been an advocate for some type of investigation to be done, frankly, with these threats that have been made? Is there maybe some interest on your part to make sure that this doesn't happen, that it's not continuing in any way by maybe investigating who's been making these threats?
I mean, I think it makes sense to do that and to make sure we understand who has been encouraging it, especially from inside the body. But at the end of the day, this is a Republican civil war, and Republicans need to figure this out amongst themselves so that we can all get back to work and get back to the very important work we need to do with all of these crises happening around the world and here at home.
Congresswoman Sara Jacobs, again, thank you for joining us. I always appreciate you.